Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 30th episode here at FanFuel Motorsports Podcast. This is the podcast where fans fuel talk about motorsports. And tonight, I'm joined, as always, by Nathan Ball and Colton Cranmore. My name's Alex Harrington. Our fourth host is yet again doing some other stuff with one of his 17 different part-time jobs. Jared Bakaiza, he at the last minute had to change of plans and he could not make it tonight. But we will have him included in a little bit of tonight's show. But first, I do want to say it's been an extremely long weekend of racing. And I don't know about you guys, but let's go ahead and start grading some stuff. Let's look at the Michigan Xfinity race before we roll in the Cup.
All right. I guess I'll start. I would probably give it an A-. Definitely the best NASCAR event of the weekend. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I think the crash kind of took a lot of the main contenders that I thought were going to be good out. And then I thought it was pretty cool with Josh Berry because I was hoping that he would have got the win, but the cautions kind of screwed him over. But either way, I think I'm fine with the finish. I enjoyed a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go a B+. Just a step below, just because I think that caution really dampened it quite a bit for me. We kind of played the what-if game towards the end of, if Cindric and all these guys were still in it. But, I mean, still a great race. It was cool seeing guys actually run each other down and running multiple grooves all race long. It was cool to see Josh Berry get it done. 3-wide pass for the lead. I was really hoping he stuck it out and got the win, but all in all, still a B+ race.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll kind of just go with a solid A, just for the race itself. Having a little bit of the caution, getting out of the way of a true long green flag run for the finish, it's gonna always upset me. We saw, like you guys said, Josh Berry got a little bit robbed for a race that he just deserved based on getting in that one car, coming up through the field. And kind of started dominating him near the middle of that final stage until the late cautions did what they did to the race. It was a good race on a track that people statistically hate ever since the repave. And I've always been one of those guys that think that the Michigan and Auto Club 2-mile formula was something that was great to watch because it always led to either good, interesting passing or a long fuel comers and goers run, and we saw a little bit of that towards the end of the Xfinity race, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was better than some of the 550 Cup package races this year, definitely. But moving on to Sunday, there was no controversy at all during the stage end of the second stage. What do you guys think about that?
I think it was kind of just absent-mindedness by both guys, I think Keselowski, if you're, at that point, he was not going to get the position back with the 100 yards to the line, and he was a full car length back. Like you're not going to be able to get back to him before the line. And I also think that they almost, after the line was over, I don't think Dillon expected him to crowd him down to the apron like that after the finish line, and I don't think Dillon knew he was going to be there, so they kind of just came into one another. So I don't think anybody meant anything. I think they almost just weren't paying attention. They thought, oh, stage is over. I can relax now.
No, I think this is 100% maybe not intentional, but some sort of payback from Keselowski, because if you saw coming to the end of the stage, Dillon kind of went up and hit Keselowski, and then they raced down to the bottom, definitely door to door all the way to the finish line. But nonetheless, it was still a dumb move because you can't pass anyone under caution anyway. Why the hell would you both still stick in it, and why would you hold your ground that hard against someone who is going to have to come back up on the track? You can't take the corner on the apron. And again, you're not going to be able to pass them anyway. Your position's already locked until you guys cycle through the pit. So I don't see the point in just staying in the throttle and holding your line like that. You weren't going to get any penalty for giving him room. You weren't going to lose any spots for giving him room. As soon as he saw him, Dillon try to come up, Keselowski should have either given him the room or just let off. I just think it was a pretty boneheaded move, and it's hard for me to say it was intentional, but I don't think it was a complete accident.
So I'll disagree with you saying that it's any part intentional. I do think it was a little bit accidental. I'll agree with both you guys that it was a boneheaded move. I will say it's kind of ironic. You've heard me the last 4 weeks say that Tyler Reddick's got this in the bag if he gains enough points on road courses. Well, we saw Austin Dillon be able to just go out there and dominate, have the best car of the day, arguably, and then this happens. And all this man had to do was finish this race, and he would have probably left Michigan with more points than the 8 car. Either that or be just right on the bubble rather than 25 points out going into Daytona. This is one of his best tracks. This is one that I almost had a guarantee that he would be in the top 5 at the end of the day was, and this one move just ruined it. A lot of people thought, yes, it was an intentional move by Keselowski. I don't think so. I did want to point out, I know, Colton, you said something about caution being out and losing position or whatnot. But, I mean, technically the caution flag doesn't fly until the 10th place race car crosses the line with the green-white checkered. So I'm not sure if going full tilt is going to do anything for you there, but that might be where both drivers were like, okay, one thinks we're going to go until the caution comes out, and that's a Keselowski, or he's going to let me up because we're done with the stage and we can't advance positions, which I don't know. It was just two cars trying to be in the same space, and it wound up being one of the most spectacular crashes I think we've seen at Michigan in a long time. Mm-hmm. And it really led to that race being a little bit more dull, in my opinion, for the rest of it. I mean, do you guys agree with that? Or?
Yeah, I would agree. I think he was one of the better cars. I don't know if he would have won, but he was one of the better ones. So I think there would have been a big storyline around if he walks out with the top 5 or a top 3, or he contends for the win, then that would have messed with the bubble quite a bit. And as soon as he got taken out, that's pretty much like, okay, now he has to win. Like, it kind of took the uncertainty out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely would have been a lot better race towards the end with Austin Dillon in there. I definitely think he had a car that could have contended for the win. And he's good at these the 550 tracks too. We saw him win at Texas last year. He probably could have gotten it done had he had the right track position towards the end. So, I mean, that just kind of sucks for us.
Yeah, and I think it led to a race that didn't really have any character towards the end until one of the most controversial parts of it was the finish. And I do want to say, just in my own opinion, before I let you guys get into it, this was Kansas 2020 2.0, in my opinion. There was no way that someone who was in second was going to be able to pass the leader, no matter who got into turn 1 and the exit of 2 first.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. Like, the only way you're really going to get it done is on a really, really long run, and you just hope that they can slip up or have a ton of guys behind you pushing you past them. So, and the bottom's not really a viable groove in Cup cars, and it's just difficult. I think that there would have been a better chance for somebody to pass for the win if there was no caution, if it went green, because there were 4 cars that were under a blanket, and Byron was probably slower than the entire 3 cars he was holding up. The only problem is nobody wanted to go out and pass him because they knew that if they pulled to the inside, they would just get freight trained. So I don't know. I didn't really enjoy what I saw because it's just too difficult to really gain anything.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it and we've beat the dead horse. This package just sucks. It's nothing but air games and slot car racing. It's not cool when everyone's wide open around the track that 10 years ago they used to lift going into every corner and slowing down 60 miles an hour at. So, I mean, I still think this race sucked. I'm happy that my guy won, though. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I can say. Like, being a younger fan, I like Ryan Blaney. He and I share pretty much the same musical interests. So, I mean, yeah, I feel good for the guy. It's another win for the 12 car. I like the guy, but that's about as good as I can say about this race, because what made it interesting in the past was, like I said earlier, fuel mileage and being able to do long run passes. And Nathan, even if we would have got that, I don't think that we would have seen someone pass for the lead there.
Right, I agree. I just think that
hard.
Right. I didn't say that we would have got a pass. I just said that we would have a better chance because I think Hamlin drove up from 18th to 4th before the green flag stopped. I know Larson had a faster car than Byron. Everybody from second to fourth did. It's just they couldn't get around him because of the air. And I think Larson even said that if I pull out to pass him, I'm just going to fall back to fourth, so I'm not going to pull out at all.
Yeah, and that's the problem with that package. I don't know what it's going to take to get that changed, but it certainly doesn't help when Jeff Gluck's pole is, I think it wound up being like an 85.7 or an 87.5, something like that, being a good race. People loved that race, and I guarantee you it was for the finish. Now, in my opinion, that finish was bullshit because you could not pass the 12 car. If Byron would have got out front, it would have been the same thing. And I was not excited just because the cars were side by side for a couple of laps. It did nothing for me. Are you guys under the same opinion?
Yeah. No, I agree completely. I wish Gluck would either get rid of these damn poles or he would run them periodically through the race. I know you can set a pole for like an hour or so. So I'd set a pole for an hour right at the first stage break and say, is this a good race, and let it run its course, and put another one at the second stage break and do the same thing. Because I definitely feel like either there's a ton of fucking bots out there that just know to vote on it, or all the video game kids come out just because they like seeing this 550 package and they make sure they vote on Gluck's poll. I wish he just retired, honestly, because I think NASCAR feeds way into this in terms of their decisions of what kind of package they need to run. They're not listening to the fans enough. They're just going off of what the 14, 15-year-olds like who, watch racing just because it's not, football season.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense.
He's getting rid of it as far as I know after this season. So I think we don't have to worry about that moving forward.
I would hope so, because I think that if you look at the averages for the polls, I looked at like some stats and everything, and they said that almost all of the top-rated races had late race restarts. Almost every single one of them.
Right.
There aren't many races out there that went green to the finish because the kids would see, oh, this is bad. Like you go on Twitter and say, there's someone posting a picture of 2018 Fontana. Oh, Truex won by 10 seconds. This race is automatically bad.
Michael Waltrip.
Yeah.
So
that's like the elephant in the room right there.
Colton, if you do want to say some stuff about that tweet from Michael Waltrip, I'll let you say that, because I'm pretty sure we have some opinions on that ourselves, Nathan and I.
If y'all saw the picture, Michael Waltrip tweeted, I think it was Sunday night, maybe Monday. But he posted, he posted something along the lines of like, actually, let me pull it up because we put it in the group chat. But he basically posted a picture of Bill Elliott, and we kind of determined it was like 85. And he's leading by, however long it was, a mile it seemed like. And then he posted a picture of the finish on Sunday with the cars right next to each other. And I can't find it here. And he basically just said like, oh, racing back in the day was so awesome. I hate the new racing now, and kind of poking fun at fans when he was using the distance between first and second as the gauge for it. And then Darrell Waltrip came in and basically shot him down. And I thought it was awesome. I'm really getting sick of Michael Waltrip's act of just on his knees for NASCAR all the time. It's like him and Dave Moody seem to be the worst at it.
Oh, my God. It's funny. He tagged Dave Moody in that.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know why he did. Like, I'm pretty sure he did because he knew it was the only person who was going to agree with him.
Yeah, and I am just so sick of that. Like, you guys need to look at this arbitrarily. Like, I'm sure 4 wins, Michael Waltrip really knows what he's talking about here compared to his brother, NASCAR Hall of Famer. So, I mean, you be the judge on which side to take there. Yeah, go check out the tweet. I thought it was absolutely hilarious that Darrell lit him up like that.
I think Bill Elliott, like, why would he say it's a bad race? I mean, he won everywhere by a mile that year, wasn't just Michigan. Right. He won by a mile at Daytona. Doesn't mean Daytona's bad.
So I'm on the fence here, right? So I go back and I look at these races, and quite frankly, racing better now versus then when it comes to that. If you look at it by cars on the lead lap and how close the finishes are. I mean, we had some close finishes back then, but the further you go back, the more you see stuff where you've only got 7 cars on the lead lap. Maybe you've only got 1 car on the lead lap, and he's 14 laps ahead of the field, like Ned Jarrett in the Southern 500. That was during, I guess, a cumulative era, 72 till the chase era, we'll say 2004, where racing was purer, but I do want to separate the fact that I acknowledge the argument that Michael Waltrip's trying to make, and at some point it's good, but once you look at it, it's not.
Yeah.
Because if you look at those race cars and how they raced around and with each other, they raced better. The race finishes weren't as exciting every single week because we didn't arbitrarily punch everyone together. Now, Colton, I know you're one of the people who says, let's not do the lucky dogs and the wave arounds and some of that stuff. I've seen you comment some of that before. You said it in the group chat.
Oh, yeah.
I think if we had those rules that we have now back then, the racing back then would be astronomically better, and how we see it with rose-colored glasses now wouldn't even live up to the standard that it would have been had we had the lucky dog rule, the wave around rule, and put the lap cars behind the lead lap cars. I think that's where the whole sport looks at things differently, I guess, than I do. That, yeah, Michael Waltrip's right if you put the conditions correctly, and that's my opinion on the tweet.
Right. I just think that it's a poor. Like, I understand what he's trying to say, but he says it in a bad way. Where you can't just look at the picture of the cars being close together and say, "Oh, everything's good." Like, he's not acknowledging how the cars are close together, why they're close together, how they race, like he said, and there's a lot of holes in the argument that aren't even answered by that.
Right. If you go looking at speedway racing, in the 70s and 80s,
Right.
kind
It's
of around the
probably
time
worse.
where we went to the aero kits and everything, and you look at Pocono, you look at Michigan, you look at Texas World Speedway, you look at Ontario, you look at, of course, Daytona and Talladega. You don't see these big packs like we're trying to get with the 550 package, like we have with the Super Speedway package. You see anywhere between 1 and 10 cars in a line that are able to pass each other with massive slingshots, and there's more passing. If you go back and look at the stats in that era, the 70s and 80s, you will see that there were lead changes 77 times at Michigan, 54 times at Pocono, and that's unheard of nowadays because of the dirty air and the inability for a car to make momentum up because of the drowning out that 550 horsepower gets. And that's purely why we don't see the kind of racing that we used to. On top of that, you've got the ride height rules and stuff like that, which won't be fixed anytime soon. So it was something that I laughed at, but it wasn't really something that, I could say, he's definitely an idiot. I just think you can manipulate whatever you want to make him be right. And I think I showed that pretty well.
Well, I'll come out and say it. I think he's an idiot. Because, if you look at it, I see that tweet as in the pictures that he put. It's kind of like when you were a kid and you bought a video game because the cover looked cool and it had a cool name on it and the description was awesome. And then you played the video game and it was trash. That's a lot of what I see this tweet is like, because in photos, it looks like the racing today is awesome. But then you watch 10 laps of it and you see Kyle Larson get a huge run. He's 10 miles an hour faster and he can't pass anyone. And that's more so, I guess, where I draw the line. I do see your points of what he's trying to say. But also to that point, there was a physical element to those races, even before the mid-2000s, where the 500-mile races at Pocono in Michigan, they were physical races.
Right.
The reason that the field got so strung out is because everyone wasn't running absolute all-out every lap because you physically couldn't. It was literally just about who could drive it the best while still keeping the car together. And I think that's part of it. I definitely don't think that the racing in the 80s is better than the racing in the 2000s. I think if we go back and we put a lot of these elements and mix them together, kind of like it was 2004 to 2013, I think it's pretty damn good.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of issues. Like I said, the video game analogy I thought was pretty good, or like reading the back of a book and then getting halfway into it and figuring out it sucks.
Yeah. I think another thing I'd add on to that is with the 500 miles, like you said, is I think driver fitness was another big thing. Like back then it was a ton of a chess match because, the guys, there's no power steering. They couldn't physically run every single lap to 100%. And now it's like they can easily do that because they're all in good shape and they have everything that they need.
Right.
To where the cars are durable too. Like they don't break down as much, so they can push all out, and it's like a sprint race, And
yeah.
And now and the sad thing is, even when they can sprint like they do now, they still can't pass each other because of the aero package. So it's like we just can't win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like just a homogeneous mixture of just
Yeah.
eh. I mean, that's what I felt on Sunday. But however, Saturday night, it's funny you guys brought up not going 100% of the time. We saw an IndyCar race at Gateway, now known as Worldwide Technology Raceway. That was a really long and thought out strategy battle there, and they weren't going 100% of the race, trying to save tires and fuel. Nathan, how did you feel about that race?
I thought it was really good. I think there's the early parts of the race are really interesting because there were a lot of things that happened. For a while, it looked like Pelot had one of the better cars. He got taken out. That Dixon got taken out too, which is another huge thing for the title. But he kept going, so he didn't really lose a place. He just lost points. I think Award was like the big capitalizer of everything because he got a top 5 out of everything. So, and everybody else that was in the hunt for the title didn't really do that well, aside from maybe Ericsson. So, I think it was interesting in the sense that it basically turned the title on its head, and it shows you that you don't need playoffs to have a fun season. Like we're having all these twists and turns and stuff, and they're not even doing anything to get it. That's just how it is.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't watch the race. I was doing stuff all weekend pretty much. But I mean, I kind of kept up on the recaps, and it's really I'm gonna tune into every race from here on out, just because, like Nate said, the championship battle is really going to be interesting. It's going to be hard to say whether or not Dixon runs away with another one, whether someone like Pelot or Ericsson comes in. I mean, there's just so many variables in there, and I haven't even looked at a point sheet in weeks. But just, I mean, hearing the banter on Twitter, I know it's pretty damn close.
Oh, yeah. I think probably the best way to describe it is that I don't think the championship's going to be won by the guy that has the most good days. I think it's going to be won by whoever has the least bad days.
Yeah,
whichever guy can just survive. And I think that's the thing is I think Pelot has done the best job of any driver when it comes to surviving. It's just his luck is so bad that the times he doesn't survive is just because he gets taken out by something else.
Yeah, this season has been pretty eventful in the fact that it's kind of like the old adage of people saying NASCAR drivers not wanting to do the hat dance. They were actually racing for second place in a lot of the really close finishes. It seems like everyone is trying everything they can do to not win this championship, whether it's based on luck or what have you. We've got 5 guys in the next 3 races that are mathematically eligible and capable physically on the racetrack to get it done. So I'm looking forward to that. But back to the race itself at Gateway, I think this showed that you don't necessarily have to manufacture drama in a race. We saw long runs there at the end, but we also saw a little bit of ridiculous driving just based on some of the accidents. VK going into the points leader, like you had mentioned with Pelot, as well as Romain Grosjean coming out in his first oval experience alongside Scott McLaughlin, who was on his first oval experience, and just going out there and passing the field twice. We saw a really incredible race from my perspective, and we didn't have a single stage break. We saw strategy change throughout the night depending on when the cautions fell. And I not only respected it, but I loved the race despite the long strung out ending that we did wind up receiving.
Yeah, I think it was entertaining. You saw things like Rossi or whatever. They got in the marbles. They pushed it too hard. Like, that was very natural. Like, guys that had chances to win lost it one way or another. And that's why I think IndyCar is so interesting, is because it's almost like a game of survival more than anything. And it's just crazy. I think, like you were saying, Ward, he's shown up lately. I didn't expect him to be in the title hunt at this stage, but he is. Just because, Pelot's kind of gotten screwed lately, and he hasn't, and you got Dixon still in it. Newgarden, I think, obviously, he's definitely in it because he can win anywhere. And now that, whenever things go his way, he always wins. Like, that's just the way it usually ends. So it's interesting. It's fun, and that shows you, like you said, it's organic. Like, everything, even the racing, the title, like, what you see is what you get. There's no sugarcoating.
Yeah.
All right, and moving on just a little bit before we get to the lights out and away we go at Gateway for the playoffs and the trucks. I do want to say there is a rumor going around that Gateway should and could possibly be on the 2022 Cup schedule. I'll go ahead, Colton. What would your opinion on that be?
I think it's great. I think St. Louis is a really good market for us. If you look at how many race fans are around that part of Missouri, they're not terribly far from Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, that half of Kentucky there. There's a ton of good race fans over there that don't have a racetrack close enough to them. The biggest problem is the lighting issue really kind of turns me off. I don't want another Kansas incident where the sprinklers came on during the race. I'd like to keep it nice and formal and not have curbs come up. But I'm sure that'll get fixed in due time. But I'd really like to see a race there. I always thought it was a really good track. I was really bummed that it wasn't in the NASCAR games in the late 2000s and early 2010s. So I'll be stoked to see the Cup Series there.
Yeah, I'd be excited too. Like, I think it's a cool track. It's unique. It's kind of different in the sense that not many tracks compare to it. And like Colton said, if you look at the races there, they're almost always big crowds. Like, there's always a big crowd at Gateway. They sell well. Lots of people there like racing, so I think it's a win.
Yeah, and it might not necessarily be a barnstormer of a race because people tend to not actually like the flat tracks. But that's just part of racing, and I love going to unique tracks. I think getting rid of a Kansas date would be perfect for me to go to Gateway. Same thing with any other track that has two dates that's not Daytona, Talladega, maybe Martinsville and Atlanta with their new repave. If it's going to be a super speedway, screw it. Let's do that 6 times a year. Why not? That's probably what the fans want. It's also my home track, so of course I want to go up there twice a year.
Yeah. I want them to race at CNS 14 times a season.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that would be good for the national market, but sure. But we have a track here that is distinctly unique. I mean, it's shaped like Darlington, but it's flat like the Milwaukee Mile and New Hampshire. But it's not really flat because it has a little bit more banking than both of those tracks. It's like 2 different road course corners shoved into an oval, and I think it would serve the Cup cars well with a 750 horsepower package. So I hope it is on the schedule for next year.
Make it a Saturday night, man. Like, that'd be perfect.
It's got to be a night race, right?
Yeah,
it's got to. We can still get tire wear there if we bring a good tire. Maybe we just get Firestone to bring.
I think it'd be a summer Saturday night. That's my thing.
Yeah,
like hot summer heat, perfect nighttime racing. So you still get the tire wear with the temperature. And then the reason I don't say day race is because they did have a day race there, and someone I knew who went there had their shoes melt because it was that hot. Like, it was crazy hot, and I think even the pavement was coming up or something like that. But I think summer night race is the best of both worlds.
Fall day race. Put it in the playoffs 1 time a year like Homestead used to be. Call it good.
Okay, but where are we taking a race away from then?
I don't know. At this point, as long as it's not Daytona, Talladega, or Martinsville, I really don't care.
Okay.
All right, we'll take Texas then. I don't know.
My schedule isn't that tight.
It can't be because that's the SMI track, right? So
all right, just boot Texas out.
Let's take Richmond out and have it be in the first round.
Move Richmond to right before Daytona. That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Sick.
Kind of how it used to be, right?
Good deal. Right. Changing the schedule. All right.
Yeah. That's what we do here, right?
NASCAR.
We run NASCAR for NASCAR. If they listen to us, we'd have it perfect.
Maybe Gateway could be like the cutoff race too. Like, you move Daytona back to July and you make Gateway the cutoff race. Like, it's a short track field. That'd be kind of cool too. What do you mean,
You know how I feel about July and how I want Nashville short, the fairgrounds.
I'll let you dream.
Yeah, that is my dream. All right, so we'll move on to the playoff race for the trucks. Other than the lights going out on the back straightaway because there was a fire locally, did you guys find that a good truck race?
I thought it was okay. It's truck racing. It's always going to be chaotic, but I think it was interesting to me. I didn't watch after the red flag, but I tuned in once the red flag was over, and I thought it was decent. So I don't think it was any more or any less than what I would normally expect out of them.
Yeah, I thought it was a great race. One of the things I really liked that they did, and that I wish they do more of, is the no live pit stops in the Truck Series. Because honestly, most of our Truck Series drivers and teams don't carry around a full-time pit crew, and they'll kind of, dabble with the Cup Series teams, and the ones that can't afford the Cup Series teams lose a ton of ground on pit roads. So I really like the no live pit stops in the Truck Series. I think keep the trucks no live, and then Xfinity, you go to the live pit stops. I thought that made the race really good because you actually saw the fast trucks do well, and they didn't lose a ton of time on pit road just because their crew lost them 2 seconds, So, I thought it was a great race. I wish the finish was a little bit more exciting, but, when you put Sheldon Creed in the fast car, he's going to whoop ass, so that's what happens.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I can agree with you there. The live pit stop thing, it works for this series only. I hate that we had to do that for Xfinity a couple of times. Even the Bristol Dirt Race, I hate that we had to do that, but I don't think we should be going to dirt with the Cup Series. So that's a different story. You can go back and check out our review of the Bristol Dirt Race from episode whatever that was, probably 12 or 15 or something. So like Colton said, Sheldon Creed runs away with a truck race when he has the right car. It was kind of an okay opener, not really as eventful as a lot of the Gateway races have been in the past between the Xfinity and Truck Series races. I don't know. I think maybe the Truck Series having playoffs might just have ruined this race for me. There's nothing really to look forward to in these first 3 races of the playoffs because you're only getting rid of two guys, and it just seems like we've got too much going on, and people are trying to save for points or something. I don't know. It was just kind of there for me. One of the worst truck races in recent memory for me.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah. I don't come here to make friends. I come here to
well, you're not making one here. Shit.
Huh?
So you're not making one here.
Why not?
Shit. That was a good race, man.
I don't know. It was one that just couldn't keep my attention. So I much preferred the IndyCar race on Saturday night. And I know directly comparing an open wheel car to a bunch of stock cars is not very good, but at the same time, they're at the same track, the same weekend, and I don't know. It was all right to me. I'll take the L if that's what I have to do. But moving on. So this year, Fox ran all year with the greatest season ever ad campaign. It was a great campaign. It had spotlights of different races throughout the season. You had cameos from different drivers like Blaney grabbing the dirt on Bristol and saying, "I love a race on dirt on Bristol." And I don't know why he sounded different when they did that, but I don't know, overproduction maybe. But did it come true is the question of tonight, because we have one race left in the regular season, so the season is technically over before we move into the second part of the season with the playoffs. And with this weekend being at Daytona, it's either going to be a train race or a crapshoot. So with these 25 races, was it the best season ever?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. I know that we have had a lot of winners and surprises and stuff, but I think, like I said, the number one, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the number one thing you need for a good season is good racing. And I genuinely think that the racing quality itself has not been very good this year. I think the finishes and the winners have been interesting. Like, you've had a lot of unexpected stuff, but the racing quality itself isn't enough to put it, on par with like a 2011 or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just going to give it a flat no. And setting the package aside, because I think we're all kind of getting used to that and used to, all right, well, if they're racing 550, no one's going to pass. I think the officiating killed this year. I look back at the Daytona road course with the fake caution for rain, Coda, the no caution for rain, Loudon, no caution for rain, the curbs in Indianapolis, the mess that was the Bristol dirt race. There's a ton of things that NASCAR could have done better to actually make this one of the greatest seasons ever. We had enough winners for it to be considered, up there in in my opinion. But I mean, I just look back at the amount of officiating blunders and I shake my head at it and say, this is what I'm going to remember 2020 as. I'm not going to remember it that there was 15 winners going into the Daytona cutoff race. I'm not going to remember that Eric Almirola won at New Hampshire because it was getting dark. I'm going to remember the COTA race, and I'm going to remember the Johnny Sauter incident, even though it's not Cup Series. I'm going to remember all these things that they did wrong to kind of gyp us of actual good racing.
Yeah, and on that same line, I don't know that this could not have been the best season ever. Kind of like Colton said, I just think NASCAR is trying too hard. I really think that NASCAR is trying too hard. They are trying so hard to get back to that era where we were in, let's say 1994 to 2008, before the recession, where we started tanking on viewership and stuff like that. They are trying so hard to attain fans and popularity like we had back in that time, but they're not using that time as a lesson to portray what we need to do now. And looking at a race car follow another race car for 40 laps last year at Kansas, not being able to pass, should have been a red flag. They didn't change that with the 550 package this year. A lot of people were saying, let's run the 750 package with the 550 aero kit and see if that works. We could have done that. The industry was asking for that just to see if it would give kind of more, push and pull and passing. I don't think it would, because we had 750 horsepower with various different aero packages from 2014 on, and we saw what that did. Just let them be unrestricted. But also, let's go down a path of trying to get people from other motorsports by putting Bristol on dirt, getting rid of one of our marquee short tracks, and then let's go and get rid of a staple on the schedule for the past 20-something years with the Brickyard, and then let's go and put 7 road courses on the schedule. Why is NASCAR trying so hard to be something it's not? That is what I think has made this season not as glamorous as it could have been. Like you guys have both said, we've had, 14 different winners now, and we should be celebrating that, because that's a damn good season. But in the end, we're all sitting here feeling empty because we've seen all these incidents that Colton mentioned and the racing that Nathan mentioned. And it's just because NASCAR is trying to push shit down our throats that we don't want. NASCAR, all we want is good racing. Once we fix the product, we can fix everything else. Yeah,
I think the problem is that, as everybody here has alluded to, it's just they don't seem to understand that, the finish does not make the race. I would probably allude to, it's not the best season ever. Maybe it's the most winners ever. That's what they're trying to do. It's not organic, if you will. It's not the same feeling as other years. I think it's just more like, hey, we got a bunch of winners. We have a bunch of green, white checkers. There haven't really been a lot of great moments this year racing wise outside of those. You look at Christopher Bell, late race restart. You look at the Bristol Dirt Race, late race restart. You look at all these surprise winners. It's like there's just not been many of them that actually came in a cool way. It's just cookie cutter. Every race is just a late race restart. It's just rinse and repeat every week, and every time it happens, they say, "Oh, this is the greatest thing on earth."
Yeah, I mean, outside of, I would argue Loudon and then the Daytona 500, I don't think we've had a really good new winner that actually earned the race. Because I think if you throw the caution for rain as soon as the race starts at Loudon, I don't think we see Almirola win that. I think we see Busch Truex.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. Daytona, arguably, he earned that one. But to Nate's point, I mean, it's all been late race restarts or random circumstances of events that get all of these different winners in there. I think without those, we probably see 12 winners this year.
Right. Now, has Chase Elliott won more than one race, correct?
Correct. He won COTA in the rain. He won Road America.
Yeah.
Okay. So he would have won Road America on his own merit, right?
Yeah, he won Road America.
He wouldn't have won COTA if we didn't throw the race due to the rain and the spray that no one could see, because, I mean, that the race could have continued on, and events would have happened. We could have seen another set of winners had we not had, the issues with tires at the Dirt Bristol race, and we had been able to run longer than 50 lap segments. I mean, I'm glad that you brought that point up, Nathan, because it when you take a zoom out, when you look back from a distance, it's like, yeah, I've been having fun, but like it's kind of empty when you go back. I don't know that this is going to be that memorable season, like you alluded to with 2011. For me, 2012 as well was a really good.
Yeah, that was
season.
another one.
Like, I remember those races thoroughly, and most of them being good. Yeah, there was snoozers, because there's always snoozers in racing, no matter what series you're in. But was there really a good, memorable race this year?
I mean, honestly, now that you mentioned it, it's really hard to think of it. I think the only like good organic races were Richmond up until the caution that gave Bowman the win. That was a good battle between Hamlin and Logano. I think Logano passed him under green. Hamlin actually drove back up to him 20 laps later, and they were going to have a good race up until then. Martinsville was decent. There was chaos, but that was another race where there was decent racing. But other than those two, I can't think of any. Outside Daytona, Talladega, obviously. But I just think that if you're going to have every single week be a long green flag run erased by a green-white checker and then a surprise winner, like, it's no longer special if you just have the same circumstances every week. It's like they just want the late race restart every week. And it's like, at what point is like, okay, I've seen this like 1,000 times. Like, give me some clean racing.
And that's exactly why the playoffs don't work.
Yeah, and it feels more like an NBA draft lottery with all the late race restarts than it does anything else, because you kind of see who's up there, and then it's a shootout to see who wins it, right? And that's what they're going for every week.
I'll go bold on this one. I think that I would say over half of the playoff races will have a restart inside the last 30 laps. Over half, maybe 7 or 8 out of 10. I don't know, and I think at least 5 of those will be inside the last 10 laps. Like, that's just how it always goes. Someone's got a big lead, or there's some good racing going on, and then, oh, boom, caution, 10 laps to go. Here's 3 green-white checkers.
Yep, and someone from 12th who has had a shitty car all day
stays out,
caught up in the wrecks, or stays out at Texas and wins the race and gets into the championship 4. It's just, I don't know. On one hand, I love this sport, and I love that we get to come on here, we get to critique it. But on the other hand, I'm like, why do we still put ourselves through this misery, knowing that they don't give a shit what we want? I just want to see some really fast cars go turn left. Like, at the end of the day, I fucking love that. I watched for the first time an actual midget race, watched Alphabet Soup and everything for the BC 39 this past week, and it was phenomenal. I've never seen that kind of racing in the Cup Series, right? If we could get something like that was organic, I love it. But we're trying so hard to get something like that, and it's just not working because they don't know exactly what we want or how to get there. And that's just been it. And for myself, I don't think of a memorable race this year. And I will go ahead and pass off the question. Since we've went to stages, have we had very memorable racing?
Oh, man. Honestly.
Like an instant classic, maybe.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I would say that there's a couple races that stick out to me from the stage era. I thought that the 2017 Coke 600 was kind of interesting because you had a couple guys stretching out of fuel. You had a couple really fast cars, and they all kind of came together. I think 2017, I don't know if 2017 Pocono was that much of a classic until the restart, so I'm not gonna make a judgment on that one. Oh, man. 2017 Martinsville, the fall race was pretty good. Even before all the chaos happened, that was a good race. There were a lot of different guys that would contend. And as for 2018, I'd probably say Chicagoland, like from stage 1 to the finish, was a really good race.
Definitely.
Like, there were a lot of fast cars. The track was hot. It was slick. You could move around. There were tons of different guys that were in contention. Like, Almirola was leading. Boyer was leading. There's like 4 or 5 guys that could have won the race. And it was organic. I think 2018 Watkins Glen was another one. That was pretty straight up, and it was really fun to watch. But outside of like short tracks, like the Bristol Night Race is probably the race of the stage era. Like that's probably the single best race of the stage era for me, is the 2018 Bristol Night Race. But other than that, it's just, on the bigger tracks, there hasn't been a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like Nate said, it's really, you could cherry pick a few of them. Maybe 2018 Chicagoland would be one.
Yeah.
2019 Bristol Night Race. But really, all in all, there really hasn't been a ton of memorable races. And it's getting worse and worse because everything that Nate listed was 2018, 2017. Now that teams have figured out the stages and everyone's going to start short pitting the stages, it takes out any strategy that there was in those first 2 years.
And plus the package, too, is a big part of it. As much as I don't
The package is a big part, yeah.
Look at the 2017 Southern 500. Like, that was an organic finish under green. Hamlin missed pit road. He got his tires a lap later. So his tires were a little bit fresher than Truex, and he ran them down from 28 seconds or whatever it was back without caution. And I thought that was kind of cool because we got to see it play out the way it was supposed to play out.
Yeah,
but we don't get those anymore.
Yeah, that's a rare occasion that we have stuff like that. Kind of like these doubleheader races with Pocono this year. We saw stuff like that, and fans clamored for a fuel mileage race, which is something that I don't think anyone thought we would hear from that isn't a diehard like the three of us are. I don't know. I think I really can't think of any instant classics. Maybe this year's Atlanta race, because I got to attend it. The 400 miler was pretty damn good, but it was really only that last stage that was compelling to me because of the Kurt and Kyle show. Other than that, I mean, everything seems to fall flat. And especially this package, not just the stage era. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, we're not the only podcast or fans that say stuff here or on Twitter or on Facebook or Reddit or YouTube or whichever, social media that they use. Like, we're not the only ones that say that we don't like what's happening. And we're the ones who've been here since we were young. We're the ones who will be here for years to come unless they do something egregious and we just say we're done. And I don't think any of us want that to happen, but that's plenty of what happened in the last few years, because obviously if it didn't happen, we wouldn't have struggling numbers in the seats at a racetrack or watching on TV. Other than that, I think that's where my little argument is done. So did you guys have anything to add?
No, I think it's just, I think if you go on Twitter, you're starting to see it. It's like it's a generational change in terms of preferences, because you'll see that the kids that Colton alluded to, they will love this racing. They will eat it up because they think it's good. They're like, we need close racing. We like the playoffs because we think that the right guy winning the championship is quote unquote too boring for us. Like that. It goes to show you that now you're starting to see kids that actually unfortunately grew up on this stuff and they want to keep this stuff,
right? Because
this is all they've known. So it's like, in the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to see people that are our age that grew up on the 550 package, and they're like, man, I want the 550 package back. And now you're starting to see the divide.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to me, just because I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say, because a lot of people hated COT. But 2011 and 2012 were my favorite years of NASCAR. Since
now people love the COT.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Maybe that's just a shift that we have to deal with because everything's getting older. But when I look at other motorsports and I see IndyCar being just a knockout dragout this year, and they don't have any gimmicks except for a double points race at Indianapolis 500. Like, when I look at the Formula One seasons, I see Mercedes dominating, but the races are still pretty decent, especially with the midfield. They don't do really anything like that except for this year with the advent of the sprint qualifying or whatever. But even that has people saying this is dumb. I'm not sure that it's gotten really good reviews after the Silverstone. I guess we'll see a little bit later with the I think it's Monza and somewhere else that they're going to be trying it. But I mean, it at one point I think it's not that bad to change. It's not that bad to try change, but we've done it so much since 2004. It's like when are we going to just have an identity? Because we've kind of been in an identity crisis this whole time.
Yeah, and I'm worried that our identity is going to be pleasing those people that we just mentioned. You know, that's right. Going to be what they finally settle on. And like you said, I don't think all change is bad. I think unnecessary change is bad, and that's what they've done a lot of.
You good, Colton?
Colton's muted.
Off.
He's muted.
Okay.
He's muted. You're muted.
You're muted, bud.
Can't hear
you.
I'm
having a rough time over here. I just sneezed twice, been coughing up a lung, and
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I guess this is kind of winding down tonight. It's been a really quick episode. Did you guys have any topics that you want to discuss before we get into the final parts of the episode?
I don't know. I do want to say that with our picks, I do have I guess I'm going into the playoffs with sort of an advantage. I think it was 2 points or something like that. So yeah. I'm not going to be actually picking this week. I mean, I might think I could say who I think is going to win later on, but I'm not going to actually have an official pick. So our other host, Jared, who's obviously busy tonight, he picked Bubba Wallace to win. So without further ado, I'll have to get picks from you guys. I just don't know what order you guys are in.
I mean, Colton has less points than me overall this season, so I'll let him go first.
Okay.
So
it has to be not locked in.
So not a winner and not Denny Hamlin.
Yeah. Or the 4, I guess.
Yeah.
I am going to take a guy who I thought had locked up that Talladega race had he not made a bad block towards the end. A guy who has proven to be one of the best plate racers these last few years. I'm going to go with Matt DiBenedetto in that 21 car. Okay. I don't know if he's going to win, but I definitely think he's going to finish the best out of any guy you guys pick.
Okay. Well, I was going to say both of those guys, right? I also picked Eric Jones earlier this year for the Daytona 500, and he wrecked out on lap 15 in that massive crash. But I don't know if I'm going to try and have some bad luck with him again. He is a guy that I think could win. Obviously, he's won this race before. But I think I'm going to go with the 17 of Chris Buescher.
That's a pick right there.
He's got a Ford engine. Fords have been very good on speedways these last couple of years. I think that he is a very aggressive person for the plate races, but also extremely conservative at the same time. I don't know.
He's usually always there at the end.
Yeah, exactly. He knows when to push it. He knows when to be aggressive. Is kind of where I'm going.
Yeah.
And I think he could be a sleeper for the 16th spot.
I had bet money on him for the 500, actually. A lot of people are telling me this is a really good idea, but the lap 15 crash kind of destroyed all that. So I don't know. I'm not going to make an official pick, but I think those are both really good picks. Buescher was definitely tempting for me. Then Eric Jones, too. That was another one y'all took from me. But
we didn't actually pick Eric Jones. So.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say. But Eric Jones is another one I think could win, and I'm kind of torn between him or I think Stenhouse is another one. I think the 3 guys that I have my eyes on, besides like you mentioned, I think Stenhouse is definitely going to be a noisemaker, if you will. Austin Dillon's going to be up there. And also, like you said, Eric Jones. Any of those guys could win. I just don't know. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So we didn't really talk about this in the beginning of the show, but I did want to do this before we went off. Of course, we're going to talk about the playoffs and stuff next week, but they changed the package to have, I think, 410 horsepower. And Colton, I think you had something to say about that.
Not about the package so much as a good sleeper pick. If y'all are looking for DraftKings or anything like that, would be Ryan Preece.
Right. Yeah, he's incredibly
consistent on the super speedways. I was actually really debating between him and DiBenedetto. But, I mean, the package is a very, very fair point to bring up.
I hope it doesn't. I just hope it's similar style racing to what we've got because I enjoy the package we got right now. I
So I
just
think
don't
they
want the
want
air
to
bubble
10 to
back.
15 mile an hour slower. So, I mean, what do you guys think that's actually
Ooh.
going to do?
I
Because
think
I thought this package was great.
the thing that makes me concerned is not the speed, it's the wicker bill. Like they said, they're taking the wicker bill away, and it's like that lip on the spoiler. I think it used to be on the roof, but it's not on the roof anymore. So, it makes me wonder is how is that going to direct the air? Because the biggest thing that made this package really good is there was no bubble of air. You could get right up to somebody, and you wouldn't push them away from you. Like that effect was decreased, and if the wicker bill being gone makes the air flow a little bit smoother over the spoiler and goes back down, that's going to be harder to do what you used to do in the old package. So I'm curious as to how much the wicker bill being gone affects the airflow around the cars, because I know that everybody talks about the 2000s when they had the wicker bill on the roof. That little thing made a huge difference in racing.
Right.
So I genuinely believe that that's the biggest thing. Like that could make a difference between really good or really bad racing.
Yeah, the speed doesn't concern me as much because we've seen slower super speedway races, kind of like in the 2008, 2009 COT era. The wicker bill is a very good point. I think what it's going to do is it's going to shorten up and kind of decrease that closing gap a little bit, or that closing.
Yeah, that's my thought.
So that you're not just going to be able to get a run and shoot past 3 or 4 cars, or just rear end someone and shove them up 2 or 3 lanes. You're going to have to kind of be more patient and kind of play your moves out a little bit more. I think. I don't know that we see as many crazy blocks. I definitely think we are going to see some. But I think with the closing rates, that's going to mitigate some of those a little bit.
Yeah, that's my concern is that as much as the closing rate creates wrecks, I think that's what made for the great racing, because back in the day when the closing rates were slower and the air bubble was there, if you got in front of a lane in time, you would get pushed forward before they even got to your bumper. So you could basically just block both lanes and you'd be fine. Now it's like if somebody's got a big run and you go to block them, they're not going to stop. Even if you block them in time, they're just going to run right into you and push you even further. There's no quote unquote stalling out a lane anymore. So nowadays it's like that's what made the racing good, is because the wicker bill or whatever it is in the package itself, there's less stalling. The leader cannot control a race as much as they can, like they used to be able to. And I hope that we don't get the air bubble back.
Yeah, one of my kind of fears is that we're gonna see the inability to get runs at all, not just diminished. Yes and no on the speed thing. I don't necessarily think you need to go fast to have passing, but also I don't think that we're out here to drive on the freeway for 4 hours.
Right.
I came to watch a race. So I hope that the speed being down 10 to 15 mile an hour doesn't just bore me to death and make me want to go to sleep. I'll take a look at the Xfinity package in the last couple of years at plate races to say
it's been pretty rough.
There's cars on a track going around in circles. That doesn't make it good racing,
right? And that's
yeah. And for me, that's my fear. I fear like we're not going to be able to see moves. And the guys that were capitalizing on this package, which in my opinion was the best speedway package that we've had since tandem racing or even before, because I was entertained more in the past couple of races with this package, with the wicker bill and everything, than I had been any other time speedway racing. Yeah, it's the spectacle, but I mean, I don't know. I fear that it's going to be a train race. So that's just
yeah, that's definitely my fear. And you pointed out with the Xfinity race is that they've got super small spoilers and they've got no wicker bill. So the air just flows over the cars really smooth. Like the air is not getting kicked up. They're not punching a very big hole in the air. So the car behind really can't do anything. It's just an air bubble, like you said, and it's a beach ball effect thing that Dale Jr. talks about constantly. If the air is still disrupted enough to where it doesn't flow smoothly over the back of the car and allows the car behind it to close up, then that's perfect. But if that wicker bill being gone does what you said it does, that would really hurt.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned Dale Jr. because you listened to the download, and for some reason he's clamoring about that sort of beach ball racing being better because people had to, work for moves and stuff like that. But like when I go back and look at some of the races post 2001, after we got rid of the wicker bill from the 2000 season, and up until I don't know, maybe the COT era, those speedway races were kind of boring because no one could make runs or have passes.
Yeah, I think the early Gen 6 is the best example. It's like if you look at 2013 to 2018, like whoever was leading the race at the start of the white flag would usually win the race.
Right.
Except there's only a couple examples I could think of, and that's David Reagan at Talladega 2013. 2014, I believe Keselowski was not leading at the white, so that's another one. 2015, I think every single leader at the white flag won in 2015. 2016 was Hamlin at the 500, and then 2017 was maybe Stenhouse, and I think that was it. Like there's just not a lot of last lap passing.
The one where Kurt Busch won, where all the leaders just quit because they all ran out of fuel.
Oh yeah, that's the Daytona. Like that was a train race.
The only one that I could think. Yeah. All right then. Well, if we don't have anything else to add, then I think we can go ahead and end the show. A really short one tonight. I think we said what we needed to say. Good conversation with you guys as always. Hopefully Jared will not have some last minute plans come up next week. We can get him on the show. We've got some big things happening next week. Of course, we've got the playoff preview, and we'll grade the guys probably from 17th to 27th season and why they didn't make the playoffs, what they can do better next year to make the playoffs. And then that Friday, we've got the launch of the website. So that's going to be something really cool. And I think we are going to be doing a live reaction watch party for the Southern 500 as well. So we got a big weekend coming up for the Labor Day weekend. We're going to try and have some of our other guests that have been on before on with us. And we'll see how that goes. Also, with the website launch, we've got a bit of content from the three of us as well as Jared, but we do still need some help from you guys. So if you guys want to be a part of the website before we get it launched, go ahead and send us an email with our document and the pin from the pin tweet that we have on Twitter to fanfuelpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll work with you to get some content on there. It's going to be anything that you want, basically a blog from a race that you've attended, some feelings that you have where the sport or other motorsports like IndyCar, Formula One, Australian V8 supercars are at the moment. Basically anything that you want. We're trying to make this to a fan hub so that you can have your own space to go as a safe spot to say whatever you think you have to say about your favorite motorsport, from the local level all the way up to international. So without any other thing, for me, Nathan, Colton, do you have anything to add before we sign off?
Not really. I think we covered everything.
I'm good. No giveaways unless you want COVID.
All right. Well, with that being said, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen. Thanks for getting us up on those websites to anchor.fm. And then also follow us and join in the conversation at FanFuel MSM, capital F, capital F, capital MSM on Twitter. And we look forward to hearing from you guys and seeing you next week. All right. Bye.